Welcome to Live Daf, your online Daf Yomi Shir.
Shalom Aleichem and welcome back to today's Daf, which is Yevamis Nun Hey. We begin on Nun Dalad Amud Beis, 5 lines from the bottom. In yesterday's Daf, we discussed that although typically when we speak about Arayos, a sister, Achoisai, it refers to a sister with whom he shares a father or a mother. But we do have exception to this rule. When it comes to Doi, father's brother's wife, that pertains only to his father's brother with whom he shares a common father. So that's an exception. When it comes to Doi, it's only as a result of a shared father. But otherwise, when we speak about sisters, when we speak about mother, sister, father, sister, etc., it refers to either a sister through a shared father or even through a shared mother. We're going to have other examples coming up today where we apply the same concept. And we're going to look for the sources, the Makairis, in each one of these cases. Says the Gemara, what about Achos Ishtay, wife's sister? Does that apply to a sister with whom she shares only a father and a mother? Or if she only shares a mother with that sister, does it count? Does she need to share a father, or even just sharing a mother is sufficient? Let's see. Vadesnan. What about the following mission? Amr loy meisa ishtecha. I tell his fellow, look, your wife passed away. Vanasa achoisa, he married her sister. After his wife's passing, he may marry her sister. She wasn't a full sister, only a half sister. Vanasa achoisa miyavia. They had a common father. Mesa, he was informed about her death. Vanasa achoisa mi'ima. He proceeded to marry the second wife's sister with whom she shares only a mother. Mesa, they informed him about her death. He proceeded to marry her sister with whom she has a common father. Mesa, he was told about her death. He went on to marry her sister from her mother's side. A total of 5 nashim. It turns out this news was erroneous, was mistaken news. They were all alive. In which case, the first one was really his wife all along, and the other ones weren't. Some of them were, some of them weren't. Let's see. The ones that are rayos, right? The first one's sister, Achos Ishta, is an erva. Kedushin does not apply, can't be teifes. And therefore, we end up with the following equation: Mutar b'rishon u'b'shlishis u'b'chamishis. Out of these 5, he may stay with number 1. That's his original wife. Number 3, which is unrelated to number 1. And number 5, who is unrelated to 1 or 3. Right? Because number 2 is only a sister with number 1 through her father. And number 3 with number 2 only by way of a joint mother. Resulting in no connection between number 1 and number 3. Totally strangers. Number 3 and number 4 are partially related. So if number 3 is really now his wife, number 4 can't be married to him, but number 5 could because she's unrelated to number 3. So he ends up with number 1, 3, and 5. If it turns out that he passes away, and Yibum is done to one of these, either one of these 3 women, 1, 3, and 5, they exempt Eretz Sarais, meaning it's a proper Yibum, it exempts the entire household. But he may not engage with number 2 and number 4, who are technically Achos Ishtay. V'asar b'shniya. Number 2 is Asar because she's a sister of number 1. U'revius. Number 4 is Asar, being a sister of number 3. V'ein bias achas man p'teres tzarasa. If he passes away and they do yibum to one of these, it doesn't exempt the other ones because they're not really his wives. However, if it turns out that really number 1 was alive all along, v'im ba'alar ashniya la'achar misas harishayna. So number 1 was alive all along, but then she passed away. Number one passed away, and then he went ahead and married and lived as married with number two, which basically makes number two his wife. And this happened after number one passed away, which allowed him to marry number two. In that case, the equation shifts. So number two is his valid wife, but number three is not because she's a sister of number two, but number four is because she's unrelated to number two. And number five is not, being a sister of number four. So mutar b'shniya b'revius, he can hold on to number two and number four. Poiter is saying if he passes away, and even is done to one of them, exempts itzaros, they're a proper yivam. V'asar b'shlishis b'chamishis, but number three and number five are us. Bottom line is, Alma we see from here. After all said and done, it's clear that achos ishtoi beimina av beimina eim. When we speak about the erev of achos ishtoi, it pertains to either sister of one's wife with whom she shares a father or a mother. It's clear from this Mishnah that achos mina av or mina eim is considered a sister. Beimina av beimina eim asuris minala. How do we know this to be true? Answer: Yolef me'achoisei. We learned from achoisei, which we had yesterday, and that's a clear pasuk. How does the Torah define sister? Ma achoisei beimina av beimina eim. Whether it's a sister with whom you share a father, or even just share a mother, she is an erva. Afkan here as well by achos ishtoi. Beimina av beimina eim. It pertains to both types of achos ishtois. V'leilf midei dasai. Why are you going to sister? Learn from dei dasai, where it's limited. Ma dei dasai mina av v'leimina eim. The dasai is the father's brother's wife. That's limited to father's brother with whom he shares a common father, as opposed to if he only shares a common mother. Avkan, here as well by a chois ishtai, wife, sister, mina av v'leimina, perhaps only from father, not mother. Mistaver, it's more probable to go in the other direction. To learn from achoise because they're more similar. Shekein krevi atzmoi, we're trying to learn achos ishtai, which is your own personal relative, your wife's sister. It's very close, very personal. Mikrevi atzmoi, from sister, which is also your personal relative, as opposed to doidoi, doidasai, which is your father's relative. It's a generation higher. It's a different realm. Adrab, just the opposite. Midei dasai haveli lemelach. You should go to Deidasai better. It's more similar. Shekein davar aidei kiddushin, because achos ishtai is a erva generated through kiddushin with his wife. Midavar shaidei kiddushin. Learn that from Deidasai, which is also a kiddushin generated, a marriage generated relationship. Ela meishasach yalfinin. Oh, so the kasha is, so why don't you go to Deidasai, which is more similar in nature, as opposed to achoisa, which is a blood relative that's dissimilar to achos ishtai. So that's a good kasha. Answers the Gemara, Ela rather meishas ach yalfinin. We're going to go elsewhere to figure out the definition of achos ishtai. Eishas ach, brother's wife. Ela meishas ach yalfinin. It's very similar. It has all the elements of achos isha. Why? The shekein davar aidei kiddushin. Ukroive atzmai, because there as well, eishes ach is personal. It's the same generation, so to speak. It's not the father's relative, so it's kroive atzmai, and of course, it's a marriage-generated relationship, and that's comparable to achos isha. So just as over there, the isser pertains to both from father or mother, here as well. Well, how do you know? It's true over there. How do you know Ve'eshesach? Both types are true. The Sanya, as we have in the Bryce. Don't engage with the wife of your brother. Whether he's a brother with whom you have a common father, or a brother with a common mother. You're suggesting both ways, or maybe not. Only a brother with whom you have a shared father, not only a common mother. Answers the Gemara, Vidunu. We can derive it by way of the following formula. Chiyav kan, we have a chiyav over here by Ishasach. V'chiyav b'achoisei, likewise we have by sister. Ma achoisei, just as by achoisei. How do we define it? Bei min ha'av, bei min ha'em. Whether she's from father or mother, she's still achoisei. Afkan here as well by eshasach. Bei min ha'av, bei min ha'em. It's irrelevant of whether it's father or mother. So that's how we know eshasach pertains to both. Or maybe go in the other direction. Compare it to the Idasai, which is strictly through father. Chiyev kan. We have a chiyev over here by eshasach. The chiyev by Idasai we have by the end. Ma Idasai just over there. Mina avli min it's only through father, not mother. Afkan here is well by eshasach. Mina avli min only through father. So eshasach is sort of tossed in the middle. Can go in either direction. Learn from achoisai, both types, or learn from Idasai, only one type. Nearly b'dayim. Let's analyze which one is more comparable. Done in kroivei atzmai, mikroivei atzmai. Sure, achoisei is more comparable because just as achoisei is your own personal relative in your generation, likewise eshasach is your generation. It's your brother's wife. So that similarity, and therefore comparable. Dasa as opposed to the Dasa, which is one generation higher. Father's relative. And therefore we prefer this way. Or perhaps go in the other direction. Let's compare it to the Dasa, which has an element which is more similar to eshasach. Done in davar shalidei kiddushin. We're deriving eshasach, which is a kiddushin oriented type of relation, midavar shalidei kiddushin from the Dasa, which as well as a marriage generated kurva, as opposed to sister, it's a naturally occurring relative, and perhaps a bit dissimilar to eshasach. Talmud loimar. That's why we have a pasuk which teaches us that eshasach pertains to both types. Ervas achicha hi is extra pasuk to tell you. Guess what? Eshes achicha is bein min ha'av, bein min ha'em, whether it's from father or mother. Asks the Gemara, ve'ema, no, maybe we'll say, eidi ve'idi be'eshesach min ha'av. Both psukim are speaking about the same type of eshesach from father's side. Why two psukim? Two types. Chada diyesh labanan b'chayi bala. One is telling you that during her husband's lifetime, she's off limits. Let's say he was megarisher. You still can't get involved with eshesach if she has children. V'chada de'en labanan b'chayi bala. And one is in her life during her husband's lifetime if she has no children. You shouldn't think there's a difference between one and the other that we compare to after death. No, during his lifetime she's usher, irrespective of whether she has or does not have children. That's why you need two psukim. Asks the Gemara. You don't need a pasuk for that. To tell you an isser during her husband's lifetime. With the Ravuna and Nafka, we have a whole Gemara yesterday. The pasuk mentions the word nida here to tell you just as a nida. Despite the fact she'll be mutter later, she's usher now. Likewise, eshesach, although she has no children, and she's slated for heter later on after her husband's passing, but during her husband's lifetime she's usher. We already know that Allah. We don't need a pasuk. No, says the Gemara, ve'ema idi ve'idi be'eshesach min ha'av. Perhaps both psukim here again are speaking about the same type of eshesach from father's side. Why two psukim? Chada diyesh labanan b'chayi bala. We're speaking that she has children. One is telling you during husband's lifetime she's usher. V'chada diyesh labanan la'acham, he says bala. And one is telling you after husband's passing she's also usher. She has children. That's why you need two psukim. Asks the Gemara. Yesh labanan la'acham, he says bala litzich akra. Why do we need a pasuk to forbid interaction with an eshesach after her husband's passing if she has children? Isn't that obvious? Once the pasuk tells you, she'ein la bana muteres, after her husband's passing without children, then she's a yavam, and then she's muter. Evidently, yesh la banam asura. If she has children, she's asur. That's pashat. We know that from the halacha of yibum. No, v'dilma ein la banam asura la alma. Maybe if she has no children, that's a unique case. What happens? She's asur to everybody else. V'sharya li yavam. She's muter to the yavam. That's the case of yibum. But yesh la banam, let's say she has children, it's even better. Sharia la alma, v'sharia li yavam. In that case, she's not obligated for yibum. She's not slated for yibum. There's no point. There are children. In this case, there are no restrictions. She's free to go marry anybody. La'alma eliyavam. So that's what I would think without this pasuk. Inami, alternatively, you can say, Ein lo bana mitzvah. There are no children, there's a mitzvah to do yibum, to perpetuate the husband's legacy. Yesh la bana rishus. She has children. You can go marry her. There's no mitzvah, but you could. Inami, or you can say, Ein lo banam, in. The mitzvah sibum indicates to us that if there are no children, yibum is allowed, and yibum is required. Yesh la banam, lie. She has children, don't do yibum. So of course it's asr, but it's not a severe isser, it's not kar, it's not even a lav, because it's just an implied halach. When there are no children, do it. Obviously, otherwise don't do it. V'lav, haba michlal asay, a lav which is simply derived from an asay, such as in this case. Do it here, which implies don't do it elsewhere, only has the weight, it carries the weight, it has the value of an asay, it's not even a lav, it's not a curse. So just from looking at Yibum, you wouldn't know much. And perhaps that's why we need an extra pasuk. To tell you that in all these cases, she's still asr. Right? If she has children, she's a kares. Right? So once we use the pasuk to tell you these basic halachas, you no longer have a pasuk available to tell you, to define to you what is considered ishes ach, and whether or not it includes an ishes ach mina aim. Says the Gemara, we have another pasuk. Kasav krachrina, we have another pasuk, ervas achiv gila, which tells you in all cases she's actually aser, she's kares, she's an erva. So if she has children, even after her husband's death, she's kares. So once we know that, from this pasuk, we have the other pasuk available, the other pasuk of ervas, ochicha hi, which is also an extra pasuk, to tell you bein min ha'av, bein min ha'im. Asks the Gemara, ve'emo. Once that pasuk is telling you that erech eishes achicha pertains to both types, bein min ha'av, bein min ha'im. If so, perhaps we'll apply yibum in that case as well. Ve'ema eishes ach min ha'im ke'eishes ach min ha'av. Both types of eishes achs are similar to each other. Ma eishes ach min ha'av la'achar misas balo sharya. Just as eishes ach from your father's side is mutter after her husband's death, that's yibum. Af eishes ach min ha'im. Same applies to Isha Sach, with whom he only shares a mother. La'achar Mrs. Bala Sharia, after husband's passing, she's mutter. Let's do Yibum. Asks Rashi, what do you mean? Don't we have a pasuk back in Daf Yud Zayin? We learn from Achva b'nei Yaakov. Yibum is intended for brothers who share a father. Answers Rashi, yeah, perhaps it's a mitzvah in that case, but otherwise it's not a mitzvah, but it's rishus, it's voluntary, it's optional. So how do you know not? Omar kra he baviyasatei. Ervas achicha he. The extra he tells you she remains asr. And remember, that's the pasuk that taught us ishes ach min ha'im. She remains asr for all time, even after husband's passing, even without children. There's no yibum at all. So bottom line is, by all arayis, except for one, deidasei, it applies irrespective of whether it's just a shared father or a shared mother. It pertains to sister, achais ishta, yeshes ach, we had yesterday, achais avicha, achais imecha. There's one exception to the rule, that's deidasa, father's brother's wife, which only pertains to father's brother through a common father. Now, once we're on the topic of the psukim and the arayis, we're going to dwell on some more words or phrases which seem to be extra, and what they're coming to teach us. Asks the Gemara, why is it that the Torah has to spell out the einish of Kores by sister? We already have the halacha, the pasuk that Kares applies to all the arayis. Why does the pasuk single out sister? Says the Gemara, look at Rabbi Yechanan, Dom Rabbi Yechanan, Shem Asan Kulam Ve'elam Achas. It's coming to tell you that if one commits all the arayis in one forgetfulness, in one swoop, Chayev al kol achas va'achas, he's chayev, he's liable separately for each erva. That's why the pasuk has to single out achoisai and spell out kares to tell you, look, every isha, every erva is separate. Now, this Rabbi Yitzchak actually learns this singling out of kares by sister for different concepts. To tell you as follows: all chayav krisis, all arayas, all bichlal hayu, they're all sort of included together, bundled together in one pasuk. V'lama yotas kares ba'achoisei. Why does the pasuk single out achoisei and spell out kares once again? To tell you ladunaid bekares v'le b'malchus, to teach you a profound lesson. Even if the Edom would warn him, tell him, look, you're getting malchus for doing this erva, which is an understatement. He's getting kares. You don't get malchus. You don't. It's kares and nothing else. And that's why the Torah singles out achoisei and spells out kares to tell you kares is the only punishment and not malchus. In any case, according to him, this pasuk is unavailable to tell you lechalik, right? So lechalik minol, how do we know? The concept of lechalik, that each erva is treated separately and there's a separate liability on each one. Nafkala, he learns it from a different pasuk. Maybe al isha benidas tumasa. Don't approach an isha in a state of nidas. Why el isha? It's an extra word. L'chayev al kol isha ve'isha, to tell you each isha is separate. Each one generates a separate punishment. Asks the Gemara, we know that kares involves cutting off a person's life, cutting it short, cutting away his kids, chas v'shalom. Why does the pasuk have to spell out the words aririm yu by deidasa? Which is just another way of describing kares. What's the point? It's known that all arayis lead to this consequence. Answers the Gemara to tell you as follows. Look at the Rabbah. The Rabbah Rami. Rabbah really had a contradiction, a stira. Ksiv aririm yu. One pasuk says they're going to be aririm. They're going to pass away without children. At the time of death, no children. Uksiv aririm yamusu. Other pasuk says that they'll remain aririm until death. So one pasuk is speaking about the future, one is speaking about their current situation. How do we reconcile? What are the two psukim trying to do? Hakeitzad, the pasuk is trying to sort of cover all possibilities, and they're overlapping psukim. Yesh leibanim koivran. Aririm yu means even if he has children now, yu in the future he will not have. He's going to bury them before death. Ein leibanim hariri. Aririm yamusu means if currently he has no children, he'll remain as such. He's going to stay without children until death. And both are needed. V'yitzrich l'michtav aririm yiyu, v'yitzrich l'michtav aririm yimusu. Both psukim are needed, and both are complementing each other and describing the full extent of kares. Ikas rachmana aririm yiyu. If only from the pasuk yiyu, I would say hava mina ad chatoi. All children that he had up until the point of his chet, he will lose before his death. Aval mechatoi ve'elach loy. But children that he has after he committed the sin, loy, perhaps they're unaffected. Kasa rachmana aririm yamusu, says the pasuk, that they will die. Aririm, which indicates that whatever happens, even if he has children after his chet, he will pass away without children. Even they're affected. Vikasa rachmana aririm yamusu. Oh, if only from that pasuk, hava mina, I would say perhaps mechatoi ve'elach. Dafka, specifically those children that came about after his chet, they're tainted, they're affected by his chet, and they'll be affected. Aval mi'ikar aloi, but children born before the chet, they're unaffected. Tzricha, that's why we need aririm yiyu to indicate, no, it covers even those children as well. Kares entails total cutting off, shortening his life and his children. Okay, let's get back to the sugi we started yesterday, ha'ara, which means a limited physical contact between the Aver and the Isha, not a full insertion, just a limited ma'aseh bia. And we learned yesterday that the chiyuv of arayos pertains even to this limited physical interaction. We have the pasuk by krisus. What about by chayave lav? A situation which only involves a lav. Perhaps just a limited physical contact would not affect that. Ha'ara de chayave lavin minolan. How do we know it does? How do we know it's usher as well? Answers the Gemara, B'digo lirachmana shichva zera. Gabi shivcha charufa. We have a unique halach in the Torah called shivcha charufa, which basically means a shivcha knanis, a non-Jewish maidservant who's engaged to an eved ivri. If one interacts with this shivcha, it results in a chiyuv of an asham, etc. In that parsha, we have the term shichva zera, which indicates a full physical interaction with the isha. And only in that case does it generate those consequences. That indicates to us, Michlal de chayavi lavin beha'ara. Apparently, all other isurei lav, even a limited physical contact, ha'ara ba'alma, would generate a lav. So that's the raya. Adrabah, just the opposite. Mitgola rachmana ha'ara b'chayve krisis. Once the Torah indicates ha'ara in relation to chayav krisis, as we had yesterday, isn't that a raya mechlal? Doesn't that imply the chayav lavin big marbia? But otherwise, if it's just a lav, you need a full physical connection. Just ha'ara ba'alma wouldn't work. Amar Rav Ashi, no. In Cain, if that would be so, why would the pasuk mention shichva zera b'shivcha charufa? If all chayav lavin have that concept, why do we have to single out shivcha charufa? That's a clear indication that other than shivcha charufa, even ha'ara suffices. Asks the Gemara, so we know ordinary chayav lavin, right? What about those unique chayav lavin that are limited to kohanim? Ha'ara the chayav lavin de kahuna midalam, a grusha, chalutza, which aren't really universal halachis, pertain only to kohanim. How do we know that this ha'ara principle applies there? Asya kicha kicha through gzera shava, because by chayav krisis it says isha sheyikach, by chayav lavin it says le'yikacha, we connect it to the chayav esay minolan. What about situations where there's an isser asay? Rashi says a mitzri and a doimi up until 3 dairos. There's an asay against marrying them. How do we know ha'ara applies there? Asya bia bia through another gzera shava. Over here it says layavei mamzer, right? That's chayav lavin, and by the chayav asay it also uses the lashon der shlishi yavai. So we have lashon yavai bia to tell you that ha'ara applies in both cases. Yivama l'shuk minolan. There's an issur for yivama to marry out. How do we know ha'ara is a concern there as well? Answers the Gemara, well, it depends. Ilaman da amar lav, there's a machlekes. The Gemara later in Tzadik Bey between Rav and Shmuel whether it's a lav for her to marry out or just an asay. So if it's a lav, ilaman da amar lav, fine, lav. So complies with it conforms with the guidelines of the lav, which is what we discussed a minute ago. Ilaman da amar asay, if it's just an asay, fine, asay, then it conforms to the halachas of the chayav asay. And as we just learned, ha'ara is applicable there as well. What about when you do yibam? How do we know ha'ara accomplishes the kinyan, which is something we learned in the beginning of this parak, that even ha'ara accomplishes kinyan. Asya bia bia, once again through the shava, because by yivama we have yivama yavayala, and by the chayav asay we had lashon of the yavay, right? And therefore we compare. Isha lebala minolan. One of the forms of kiddushin is bia. How do we know that ha'ara is affected there as well? By a regular isha marrying a regular husband. Asu kicha kicha, by way of adandik zer shava. By the kiddushin it says kikach isha, so we have kicha. And by the kara situations we also have kicha. We have isha sheikach as a chaysai. We compare the two things. So bottom line is ha'ara is applicable everywhere except for one, shivcha charuf. Amarava, lamali de kasa rachmana. Why is it that we find 3 times where the Torah mentions this term shivcha zera? What's the point? Lamali de kasa rachmana shivcha zera. Firstly, b'shivcha charufa, as we just mentioned. Again, shivcha zera be'ishes ish. And the pasuk warns against interacting with a married woman. we use the lashon shichva zera. What's the point? And shichva zera b'soita. Right, the Torah, when describing the fellow who warns his wife against interacting inappropriately with this fellow, the pasuk there and again uses the lashon v'shachav ish oisa shichva zera. What's the point of mentioning shichva zera if in any case you don't need a full-fledged physical interaction? Even ha'ara, as we explained, would be problematic by the Eshes Ish, by the Soita. Answers the Gemara, well, first of all, this is an easy one. Excuse me. The Shifcha Charufa, the mentioning of Shichva Zera by Shifcha Charufa, that's obvious. Kedamar, as we just explained, because over there you need a full physical connection. The Eshes Ish, why mention it over there? It's coming to tell you, Prat L'Meshamish Meis. It's coming to exclude one who interacts physically with an Eshes Ish in a state of the aver being deactivated, unstiffened. So in that case, there's no arayis consequence. And that's why the pasuk mentions shichva zera. Rashi says it's without kisha, it's not roy lahazriya. Well, hanich l'manda amar mishamesh meis b'arayis potter. That works according to the shita. Then in this case, it's potter. El l'manda amar chayiv. But according to the shita, it says even mishamesh meis is chayiv. Michael Amema, what's the point of this phrase shichva zera? Ella prat l'mishamish meisa, as opposed to one who interacts with a woman who has already passed away. Perhaps I would think we find elsewhere that the isha is called she'eroi even after death. Rashi brings ki'im l'she'eroi akarav eloi. She'eroi is ishtai. So we find the term she'eroi regarding a wife even after her passing is still a connection. And therefore, when it comes to arayis, perhaps I would say, if one interacts with her in that state, there is an ishes ish value to it, and there is arayis, kamash malon. The lashon shichva zera is coming to exclude that. And finally, the soita lamli. Why mention that term when it comes to a soita? Answers the Gemara Shich for the following halach. The pasuk has the words shichva zera. That's coming to tell you prat l'davar achar as opposed to something else. What is something else? My davar achar amar sheshes prat as opposed to the following case. L'shekine la, kine means when the husband warns her against interacting with this fellow, and he has a unique request. L'shekine la shaloi kedarka. He tells her, look, don't interact with this fellow. Shaloi kedarka. This is a term we had at the beginning of the parak. That's the two forms of bia, right? Kedarka is ordinary, shloi kedarka is added ordinary, which means the front, the back, right? The vaginal, the anal. So shloi kedarka is telling her, don't interact shloi kedarka. That's what he's concerned about. In that case, the consequences, it doesn't carry the same consequence, it doesn't carry the same value as a regular kinoi. In this case, she has no din to drink that water, even if she goes into hiding with this fellow. It's not a proper kinoi, and that's what the pasuk is excluding. Shichva zera has to be a proper interaction. It has to be warning against conventional interaction, which has the ability to impregnate shichva zera, but as opposed to shloi kedarka, it doesn't have that value. Amalei Rava, why would you say that? Why would you mitigate this type of kinoi? It has the same value. Mishkevei isha ksiv. We find that the pasuk equates both types of interacting with the isha. Mishkevei isha is lashon ravim. They're both treated the same. Ela ma'rava. Prat l'shekine lo derech ivar. Shichva zera is coming to exclude a case where he warns her against behaving inappropriately with this fellow. Not warning against an actual physical connection, a masabiyah, but derech ivar, other forms of physical interaction. Amali Abaye, Pritzusa Asarachmana. What would be the Havamina? Why would you say that this would be considered a proper kinoi? In which case, if she proceeds and does it, she becomes asar on her husband. As appropriate, as inappropriate as it is, as unrecommended as asar as it is. But Pritzusa, this type of Pritzus is asar rachmana, would generate an isser to her husband? Of course not. a conventional interaction with a strange man, a proper, a real znus, makes her asa, but not this type of interaction. So there's no reason to think that this would create isser, and you don't even need a pasuk. Ella Amar Abaye, says Abaye, prat l'shekine lod b'neshika. The word shichvazera is coming to rule out a kinoi b'neshika. He's warning against a very, very minimal interaction, similar to the ha'ara that we mentioned earlier, where the aver of the ish is making some form of contact. And that's not considered something that can give the kinoi, the warning, value and weight. So only if he's warning you against a full-fledged interaction, but not just a limited neshika interaction. Says the Gemara, yeah, this works very well if you define the term ha'ara, as we had all along, which is certainly problematic, certainly asur. If we define it as achnasas haTorah, which means a limited insertion of the aver, only the tip, the haTorah, the flesh area. So that's called ha'ara, and that's considered a masabiyah. So then we can understand why merely neshika, which is just a slight contact, would not be considered part of the masasnus. It would not give the kinoi any value. That would explain it. But according to the other interpretation of ha'ara, which is merely neshika, just a slight contact, that's already called ha'ara. Then how could you tell me here that if he's warning you against doing that with that strange fellow, that's not considered kinoi, it's not considered something which could create isser? Of course it can. It's ha'ara. Ella rather lo'ilam l'shekine lo derech ivorim. Let's go back to the other pshat, Rav's pshat. The Torah is telling you, look, in as much as acting inappropriately, derech pritzes, is not recommended, but kinoi has to be a proper kinoi. Kinoi pertaining to this behavior doesn't have the kinoi value. It doesn't create isser to her husband. Pasuk needs to tell us that. What's the chiddush? Why would I think otherwise? Perhaps I would say, yeah, the Torah is concerned about his being makpid. He's concerned about this. It's all personal. This is his concern. And this is considered a kinei, even though it's not a full ma'aseh znus. And perhaps this can create isser, this can compel her to have to go drink the mayim of the Saita. Kamashmon, the Chiddush is no. The halachas are uniform, universal. It needs to pertain to a real ma'aseh znus as opposed to this limited interaction. Amar Shmuel. Let's go back to the term ha'ara. We're going to have a total of 3 definitions. Shmuel says ha'ara zu neshika. That's just the initial contact. Mashal la'adam shemaniach etzboi al piv. Similar to a person placing his finger on his lips, even though he's not inserting it, it's impossible. There won't be some sort of pushing in, some sort of slight insertion. That's why neshika is considered a ma'aseh erva. That's Shmuel's approach. Neshika is ha'ara. Ki also Rabba bar Rachana Rabbi Yochanan, he also says gemar bia was considered the completion, so to speak, of the ma'aseh bia. It's much more than that. Gemar bia that we have b'shivcha charufa, right? Like we explained earlier. Over there, you need more than just ha'ara. How do you define that? How do you describe that? So achnasas haTorah, insertion of the haTorah of the aver. HaTorah is the raised flesh, skin area at the tip of the aver. That's called gemar bia. At this point, this description of Rabbi Yochanan can be compatible with Shmuel. Right? Shmuel speaking about ha'ara, the initial phase of bia, which is just a contact neshika. He's going on gemar bia, which is the achnasas haTorah. So far it fits. Maser Rav Sheshes, he has the kasha. The Brisa says shichva zera. This is by shivcha charufa. You need that much. Ein chayiv el al bias hamirik. The chiv is only when it's a complete bia. My love, should we not assume miruk gear the entire aver needs to be inserted? No, you don't need that much. Loi miruk atorah. Even the atorah being inserted is enough. Taisus learns that according to this shita, even that much bia can generate offspring, and it's included in the Isser Shechva Zera. That's a kasha. On Rabba bar bar Chana's version of Rabbi Yochanan, so we thought we had a kasha, right? We said no. Loi miruk atorah, even the atorah insertion is considered gemar bia, and that works with Rabbi Yochanan. Kiyosar of the Miyah bar Rabbi Yochanan. Here comes another version of Rabbi Yochanan, which is that hara zu achnosas hatorah. No, hara needs more than just contact and neshika. You need achnosas hatorah. That's considered the initial phase of bia, and this certainly doesn't work with the earlier version of Rabbi Yochanan. That achnosas hatorah is called gemar bia. He's saying hara needs at least that much. Amrulay, they told Rav Dimi, how could you say that? V'ha Rabba bar bar Chana lo yamar hachi. We had the earlier version of Rabbi Yochanan, which didn't work like this. Rabbi Chana told us that achnosas hatorah is gemar bia. Amar Lahu, Rav Dimi says, look, it's either me or him. Oy ihu shakroi, either he is speaking untruthfully, or ana shakroi, or I am. It's one or the other. You're right. We're not speaking the same language. It's a different version of Rabbi Yochanan. Likewise, Kosser Rav of Rabbi Yochanan, he too quoted Rabbi Yochanan in the same way. Ha'ara zu achnosas hatorah. Even to accomplish ha'ara, you need at least achnosas hatorah. Ad Rabba bar bar Chana vadei polik. Certainly, this last version of Rabbi Yochanan is in full disagreement with Rabba bar bar Chana, who says that achnosas hatorah is already way far gone. It's already gemar bia. Ha'ara is just a neshika as the ha'ara. So certainly we have two shitas here. Right? One version of Rabbi Yochanan is that ha'ara is the neshika, and gemar bia is achnosas hatorah. And the second version is ha'ara is achnosas hatorah, and gemar bia is more than that. So certainly two versions. The question remains as follows: what does Shmuel really hold? Let's go back to Shmuel. He said that ha'ara is neshika. Two ways to learn that. You can say ha'ara is neshika, and anything more than that, achnosas hatorah is already gemar bia. Or you can say no. Shmuel never meant that. Perhaps he held that neshika, up until and including achnosas hatorah, is also called ha'ara. Right? Could be that's what he meant. Says the Gemara, Ade Shmuel milema palik. This last version of Rabbi Yochanan, that what? That achnosas hatorah is called ha'ara. Can that work with Shmuel? Or is it incompatible with Shmuel? Says the Gemara, yeah, it's compatible. It can work. There's no machlekes, no machlekes. Beneshika v'ad achnosas hatorah ha'ara karila. Shmuel meant from the initial contact, neshika, up until and including hatorah, is called ha'ara. And that fits with the second version of Rabbi Yochanan. From zero until achnosas hatorah is called the ha'ara. So far we have two versions of, two definitions, two possible interpretations of ha'ara. Either from zero until and including achnosas hatorah, or a neshika is ha'ara, and anything past that, achnosas hatorah, is already called gemar bia. That was the first version of Rabbi Yochanan. Ki Yasser of Shmuel bar Yehuda, Rabbi Yochanan. Here comes yet a fourth quote of Rabbi Yochanan, which says ha'ara zu achnosas hatorah. What is ha'ara? Achnosas hatorah. Gemar bia is gemar bia mamash. Past that, a full connection. Mekan ve'elach, but anything before achnosas hatorah, anything below achnosas hatorah, einoi ela neshika. That's only called neshika. Just a slight contact. Upater aleh. There's no chiyuv on that. Upalagad Shmuel. Now this version certainly disagrees with Shmuel, because according to this version, anything until Achnasas HaTorah is 0 has no value, has no chiv. The first point of chiv is Achnasas HaTorah. So bottom line is, he's Chalik on Shmuel, who clearly tells us that Neshika is reckoned as Ha'ara. So bottom line is, sounds a bit confusing, bottom line is we have 3 Shitas, as per the interpretation of the word Ha'ara. It can be 1, 2, or 3. It can mean either Neshika only, because Achnasas HaTorah is already called Gemar Bia. That was the first version of Rabbi Yochanan. We have the last version, Shmuel Rabbi Yehuda Rabbi Yochanan, who says just the opposite. Achnasas HaTorah constitutes Ha'ara. Anything below that, meaning Neshika, is 0. Then we have the middle Shita, which is the other version of Rabbi Yochanan and perhaps Shmuel. From 0, from Neshika up until and including Achnasas HaTorah, all that's considered Ha'ara. Okay, so what do we learn today? We started with how to define brotherhood, sisterhood when it comes to arayis. So aside from one exception, which is doidasai, father's brother's wife, where we find that it's only mina'av, father's brother through a common father. Other than that, everywhere else it's bein mina'av bein mina'im. Let's go down the list. Whether it's achoisei, whether it's achois oy, achois imoy, whether it's achois ishtay, whether it's eishes ach. In all cases, it's bein mina'av bein mina'im. We defined the term aririm. We learned why the Torah spells out koros ba'achoisei. We learned how to apply ha'ara to all these surim, except for one, shech v'chalufa. Over there it needs to be more than just ha'ara. We discussed the 3 mentionings of Shech Chazer in the Torah, what each one is coming to teach you. And we concluded with the definition of the term ha'ara. All the best to you and much hatzlacha.